Hello and welcome to Coach Talk, the show more interested in ideas and philosophy than facts and history. My guest this week is GotoOne. He's the head coach that took BDS from 9th, 10th place in 2022 to Worlds in 2023. We talked about discipline, team dynamics, optimizing time and space, and creating a high performance environment. GotoOne's ideas are thorough and thought through, and he brings his own interesting perspective. This episode is once again brought to you by Coachify.gg. So for those that don't know, Coachify is a coaching platform that, alongside payments, scheduling, and practical things, makes tools for coaches. You can set up live VOD reviews, anchor your specific messages to timestamps in videos for future use, and even set up auto-tracking of goals with the Riot API pairing with your solo queue accounts. While I was working, even in the LEC, I was just using a pen and paper, so I understand that learning a new set of tools can be daunting. But with coaching as competitive as it's becoming, anything we can do to set ourselves apart is a fantastic opportunity. And now is as good a time as any to add something new to what you offer and make it as clear as possible for your players. So if you're interested in checking out Coachify.gg, you can do so with the link below. They have a bunch of free options which I suggest you check out first, although there are extra tools more catered to teams behind a paywall. And if you do decide to look into Coachify, please drop me a message on Twitter or on Discord and let me know your feedback, as we're working together to try and create the best possible tools for coaches. Lastly, if you enjoy this episode, please like, share and subscribe. And if you're interested in exploring mentoring or any of the other things I do to support coaches in the scene, follow me on Twitter, where you can find all the other links that you'll need. And now, without further ado, GotoOne. What is coaching?
So, what is coaching? So, I thought about it when you asked me this yesterday. I mean, a few days ago. For me, the first phrase that came to my mind is just like, at the end of the year, I want my players to be happy and to have like good memories. I think that's my first aim when I think about coaching is just to, I mean, especially in our industry, right? Because it's short term a bit, so it's year to year. So what I want is at the end of the year, my players to look back and say, I had actually great memories this year, regarding of winning or losing. Obviously, it's easier when you're winning, right, to build good memories. But it's about building something and creating memories. Because I think also because you can have a short career. I don't want people to look back like, I don't know, in 10 years and say, oh, it was just a waste of time, you know? So I think coaching is, for me, it's about that, creating like really strong moments and meaningful moments. And also like on a more practical way, it's about creating the frame, where your players can express their true selves and express their strengths at like close to their limits, right? So you want to maximize and push people to find themselves and climb new heights and just reach new levels. I think that's what coaching is about for me. In the first take.
So do you have being happy, is that more primary even than winning?
I think, as I said, both are really close to each other. So for me, if you aim to be happy, you're gonna win at some point. Because if you don't get me wrong, at the same time, it's like being happy is also to love what you do, right, in a daily basis. So if you love the sport you're practicing, if you love league that much, and if you're creating memories with people around you that you like, I think like lifting a trophy or winning will come at some point, you know. So yeah, I think like being happy, loving what you're doing, it's what you will like I think it's easier. I mean, it might be not the right word, but it's just like if you're, it's just like the time passed faster and everything seems like more enjoyable, right? If you're like only focus on winning, everything becomes so stressful, and you just like your tunnel vision into one way, and then if it doesn't happen, you explode, right? So you need to enjoy the whole journey, and yeah, you need to have fun, and that's why like for me, like happiness comes first, because if you're doing everything in a healthy way, then yeah, I believe like winning will come.
Yeah, there's that famous phrase from a basketball coach. I think he said, the scoreboard takes care of itself. Like,
Yeah,
we do all the right things, we have all the right
and
processes, we focus on the right things,
yeah,
and the scoreboard comes, like the wins come.
yeah. I mean, I've played basketball for 12 years, not at a really high level, but in decent one when I was young. So basketball is a sport that's really close to my heart. And there is also like Kobe that said like what um, like the difference between great players and good players. I just like their love for the game, right? Like it's all about love at the end, and I really believe that as well.
Great. I mean, I'm not that into basketball, as it's quite difficult in the UK to find a place to play basketball. But at least as far as I'm aware, Kobe is also very famous for talking a lot about intensity and
Yeah.
like the sort of grind type idea. So how does that align with putting the happiness as the primary goal? Because is there not times where you have to grind even if you don't want to?
Yeah, I mean, this is like about discipline, right? It's like you need to also really be aware of the sacrifices that you need to make to achieve your goals and to satisfy your own ego, I would say. So I think this is everything is linked, right? But it's another topic for me. It's like how do you make your goals and how do you achieve them? And yeah, it's about discipline. It's about not. I mean, just like you want to go all in, and you should go all in a competitive aspect. Like no room for saying I will do this tomorrow, or like I need to. It's just like as I said at the start, it's in this industry, it's like too short term to also like like you need to get the most out of it, and I mean out of yourself, and to keep pushing, and yeah, I think it's hard also to understand what it takes to go at that level. And I mean, that's why we come back to you need to love from the start, especially in esport, because you don't have like, in comparison, in sport, you have like 10 years of like meeting coaches, meeting teammates, understanding the basis fundamentals of the game. In esport, you come, you're like already 16, 17, 18. You don't know how to play competitive games. You don't know what is it to grow inside a group of people. So it's even harder to understand what discipline is. I think, I mean, you can probably relate. I think not many players can, I mean, have this natural discipline themselves, and you need to taught them like the basics of what they should do in daily basis. But yeah, for sure, you need to try hard. You need to give your 100%. There is no shortcuts.
So what is discipline?
Discipline is just for me. It's not about using every minute in your day. It's more about making yourself accountable and being just. I will take once again a Kobe phrase, but it's just like you sign a contract with yourself. You say, okay, this year or like in this team, I want to improve my routine. I will like do, I don't know, I will go to the gym every morning. You sign this contract, you go, and every day, there is some days you will not want to, right? For sure, but you sign this contract like at the start of the year, so non-negotiable. So you keep going, and the same with, I don't know, it can be like I will watch more VODs, but it's not, for me, it's not I will watch more. It's more about I will include this in my schedule at this moment of the day, and I will stick to it no matter what. You need to be precise about how you improve your routine. I think like the danger of being so blur about your goals is for sure like you will like negotiate with yourself at the end of the day and say, oh, but I said I will do more, but if I do twice tomorrow and none today, it's more still. But no, it's not. So yeah, I think that's important.
As soon as you actually articulate something, you can also fail it. And when you keep it in your head,
Yeah.
it's like, well, it's still more, even though it's not much, but it's
Yeah.
more. So you touched on it a few times, but why do you think careers in esports are so short?
I think, I mean, at the end, it comes back to the business side of it, right? I think not many teams can pull enough money to sign people for multiple years. That's, I think, a first take. Then I think the scouting side of our industry is not great. I think it's not even about scouting individual players, but it's how we build rosters. I think there is like many missing pieces. So it broke like, I mean, you can see there's many rosters that can't even start, I would say. Like it just they're together and you see no real improvement, or you see improvement for 2 weeks and then it breaks down. So I think the scouting part had a big deal as well. And as I said, also with just like players' mindset and culture and even coaches' culture, it just like people arrive in esports and after 2 years they are like either completely discouraged or they just try to make it, but they still don't have the fundamentals of their craft. So it just like many like autodidacty. I don't know if you see it in English. It's just like when you're learning by yourself and um, you need to figure out everything by yourself. There's not many people that actually help you understand things, and I think like knowledge is really hard to get in our industry. But once again, because I think people are looking too much into esport as a really like I would say like really special thing when you should try to learn from sport and how to educate yourself because it's the closest. I mean, when I'm speaking about competitivity as well, I think there is many um, sports that you can learn from, but also like many categories. Because I would say like for me there is a PVE and PvP categories. Like for example, skiing or like everything that is slide, like when you're sliding, sports. So where like you're against yourself and you need to make the most out of it. But it's like I'm going a bit away of the topic, but it's just like even those kind of sport, even like golf, for example. I think golf is like a really insane sport because you need to like you're only against yourself. But in comparison, you have like basketball and like every sports that include a ball that it's a PvP sport. Like it's and this is closer to Warcraft because we are playing against humans. But you need to study both sides for me. It's like if you understand how a single athlete practice, because he's like only against himself, and so it's harder to get like clear data. But I mean, it's data will be only about yourself, but it's so deep to learn how to improve only yourself, and you're not against anyone else. I think it's a really big challenge. I think we have like tools to educate ourselves. It's just like yeah, people figure it out like in their lives that they want to be competitors and at a really late age. So yeah.
Yeah, and they can also get quite far in the scene without doing those extra things. Like we if you look at sports people I can't remember who I was listening to who was saying this. Like Cristiano Ronaldo has like an hour of coaching once every few days kind of thing. But that's not all he's working. He's just working all the other time by himself, doing absolutely everything he needs. And yet, the way esports is currently, you can get into a semi-professional or even a professional team just based on playing the game and nothing more. Like if you play the game a lot and you get challenger, you can get picked up by an ERL team. And then you can progress from there, having never needed to do the extra things and needed to do those or sacrifice things. And that's why I think it can be hard. Do you think that it's getting better? Do you think we're going that way where it will just become more and more professional and more, therefore more and more long term, because people will start to be able to differentiate themselves more?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I started League, I started as a player, and it was like already like 12 years ago. So, I mean, compared to what I have when I was a player, for sure there is like we are at a million miles. I think it's way better for sure. Like the whole ERL system, ERL infrastructure to nurture or like or talents. I think is not bad, but still, I think there is a bit of a trap there because, I mean, not a trap, but we still need more time because, once again, there is so many teams. If you compare to LCK, for example, like LCK, it's a bit straightforward. It's like 10 teams that have like 10 academies, and I mean, you can go down, and so like players that are getting scouted are just like floating towards like the top, right? Naturally. When in Europe, there is so many like ways of climbing to LEC and so many angles, like you can come to LVPs and LFLs and Germany's, and yeah, you just like go all over the place. So, and I think because you have so many more teams, maybe there is less. I mean, it's not maybe there is less good infrastructure and less like coaching staff, just players overall. So I think it's also we need to just keep improving because you can teach bad habits to these young talents because of this way. But compared to even like 5 years ago, I think knowledge and just like accessibility of knowledge, it's like it's insane. You can like check still POV, you like pro views, you can like check so many players play solo queue. Like here, you have so many website with data. Like for sure, like it's 1 million times better.
I think as well in Europe we don't really have a kind of development club. So in that same, the analogy of LCK, of course, again, as you mentioned, it is simpler when it's just like, okay, this entire league is the Academy League and the one below is the Challengers, or whichever way around it is. And people can get pushed up through that system. So you end up with T1 who have 4 out of 5 of their players come through the T1 system and that kind of thing. And, in a sense, maybe one of the downsides to how competitive a lot of the leagues are, like especially LFL or LVP and Prime as well, is that people, I don't think this is true, but they think that they can't do a development roster because there will be knocked out, or they can't. Development roster is the wrong way to think about it. I think having as the primary goal to develop players and push them into the next. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, there isn't a single ERL organization that would say our primary goal is over the next 3 years to get as many players into the LEC as possible. And that actually includes most academies. Or most.
Yeah, I think one team that did good was LDLC in that regard. I think they did a really good job of teaching players and just like pushing them towards LEC. And I think, I mean, I had this mindset in Game World as well. I think if you're in ERL, I mean, that's always in between as a coach. You have like so many goals that you need to achieve, and you need to make the great balance between winning, improving, growing. But for sure, like it's the same with happiness for me. It's just like if you want to make your player happy, you need also, I mean, at ERL level, you need to make him as close as possible of EDC, because that's his personal goal, is to climb. So I still think in ERL you need to push your players towards EDC, and you need to like. I think actually like there is still some orgs that push, or at least some coaches that push players and say, not in a bad way, like just promising, yeah, you'll get EDC, no, but like truly believe that I will be teaching you the game so you can have great EDC tryouts for next year. And I think, we need more people like that, and we need more people, I mean, also like as you said, it's just like the global knowledge of the region. It's easier in LCK because everything is closer, and also like they're scouting their players way younger, from like 12 years old. So we are getting there also in Europe. I can see like the knowledge of the game, even though it's still not enough. I can see like I can see compared to, I don't know, even like, yeah, as I said, like 5 years ago, I think like way more people have an average level of knowledge that is enough to. Mm, I'm a bit optimistic maybe, but I would say like still in ERL 1, I think most of the teams have people with good basics.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things for me, which actually I'll ask your opinion on it instead. If we stick on the development angle for a bit, do you think that this can come from the coach? Because one of the things that I think about the way we do things in Europe is, when I say there's no orgs that are as focused on development as I think would be good, I don't mean the coaches, because if you're there for a year, like your goal is to do well in summer. So you make the decisions that will do the best possible in summer, and then secondary to that, hopefully we get some people promoted. But again, and maybe I'm wrong, you know, if anyone's listening to this and you're running an organization and you're doing this, please let me know, because otherwise I'm going to keep saying it. That I don't, as far as I'm aware, even with academies, people are still getting coaches and telling them do as best as possible in summer. So of course you will accidentally develop people as you do that.
Yeah.
But do you think this kind of thing can come from the coach, where the coach says, okay, forget my mandate from the org, I'm just going to focus on the development side of things? Or do you think it has to come from higher up?
I think I'm biased on this. I mean, first interesting thing that you've mentioned is about academies, because right now, I think one cannot have academies, if I remember correctly, or like all LFL teams had academy at some point, and now they don't have. Same for ADC, it's not mandatory anymore. So first, this academy aspect, we've lost it. Is it a big deal? I think it is still, because you're not like the good part when I was in BDS is just like you can still watch your main team scrims, and it just like it makes your players understand what's the next level, and also like understand that it's not that far, like in a like purely individually understanding. It's not that far, and it make like everything more like, it makes them more hungry to reach this level because they know they can, and everything like seems so possible. So I think we've lost a bit of that aspect. I don't remember the first part that you mentioned. Well, what was your question again?
Just if the development, like bringing back a focus on development. So let's say, so you don't have to have an academy anymore, but let's say you're in charge of running BDS Academy, not as the coach, but as the person above that.
Yeah.
Like, actually, that's a bad way of phrasing it. I mean, I think the thing that I see as a problem is that we act as though the coaches should be the ones to pick the direction of the organization. But if the coach is only there for a year, how can you?
Yeah, you can. Yes.
How can you be a
Yeah.
coach of that?
Yeah, I completely agree with it, on that. I mean, I had a discussion in my past orgs about this as well. It's just like, for sure, if you sign 1 year, you cannot like project yourself to completely like, not play for winning. Like, you need to prove yourself, to keep grinding and to show that you achieve things. But also, I think people are a bit biased by what a coach should achieve. And for sure, we have like too much responsibility in a way, because I think organization culture is something that, I mean, their culture is something that you cannot out, I mean, outwork in 1 year as a coach. Like, I think there is many orgs example in ERL where you have like orgs that are like known for winning, orgs that are known for not winning, and you know coaches are changing and stuff, and yeah, it's all the same. I think in NA it's the same. It's always the same orgs that are winning, or at the top at least, and it takes time to change your culture. I think some orgs are just like hoping we'll get the right coach with the right player, and this time it will click. But yeah, it's not working like that. Like you need to change how your whole organization operates, and how like they teach, or not even this, but because culture is a bit of I would say, it's a bit of a blurry thing, right? It's there, and I think there is people that know exactly what they're doing and people that are just like putting the frame and they just leave, and they don't keep nurture the project. And I think that's what we're missing for sure. Like, a coach cannot in 1 year like change a full org culture. But same time, I'm a bit biased because know that I mean, I've experienced a high level. I think I can influence way more than I could before, because now I've like also, like this respect side of like, if you went high, then people will listen to you way easier, right? Even players. Um, and but when you're climbing as a coach, it's so hard. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what. I mean, you want to respect your org. You know, like there is limit. You know, there is like lines, and yes, I think that they are telling you that you should be doing, and then you trust them. You follow what their guideline, or whatever it is, and then you're getting trapped like slowly and slowly. And at the end of the year, you're like, fuck, like this was not a good idea, but I don't know what I could have done to change it at the start. And yeah, I think it's a bit of yeah, it's the slow trap that you need to get out of it. But I think it comes from the org to understand that how much power they give to their coach and how much trust they give to their coach. And if they don't, then understand that the responsibility is on your org and on your like esport director or like global manager or whatever, and not the coach. I think right now everything is on the coach, so it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's all those kind of things that you've touched on. There's a paper which someone showed me recently because I was talking about this exact same thing, and they're talking to sports directors in sport, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a position that doesn't really exist in esports. Some people do it, but I would say Mac is someone who does it as the coach, or Romain is someone who does it as the general manager. So like, there's not a specific position for it, and so a lot of orgs I think are missing that in its vision, culture, all the things that you just touched on, and they're often difficult to quantify, and they're just like you're talking about discipline. If we have a rough vision, then we can't fail it. But as soon as we have a dedicated vision, then we can fail. So it's almost like easier to keep it just in everyone's mind.
Oh, you're completely correct.
So, I mean, I'd love to talk about when you came into BDS, because of course, coming off a year of not the kind of results that they wanted, of course. But you, at least as far as I'm aware, did have a bit of, well, again, probably too much responsibility for the head coach, but also a bit decisions around the academy and that kind of thing. Like you mentioned earlier, talking about making your goals even as a first step. How do you go about doing that? Like if we use that place as an example.
You mean on my first year in the academy or in the LEC?
First time when you come into the LEC and you're given the head coach
Oh,
position.
okay. I mean, first time when I came to LEC, I mean, the whole project was new. Like only Atomium was there like previously, but except that, I mean, Adam came was in LEC, Nuke was in LEC, but I'm not mentioning especially specifically players. But except from that, all other people were not there. I mean, Arquez was in ROG, so or like data analyst was in ROG, but so yeah, like I don't know, we were out of 14 people, 4 people were in EDC, you know, like so it was completely everything needed to be like build up again and figure it out things. So I mean, if you see our year, for sure, winter was just discovering things like all our process, how we operate. So and yeah, like winter split were just trying to understand this new environment and build small steps. So on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, how much team activities we need to make, how important it is, can we actually do it? Because new city, new things, like I don't know shit about Berlin. So just need to figure it out. Is it far? Do we have like many activities around our gaming house? Can we move easily? Can we yeah, all this stuff, like even like small thing like revamping the full office, like the way that I see, or like I wanted to inspire my players a bit more, like how to make practice more efficient. So yeah, it was all coming to how we optimize our time and how we optimize the space, basically. And then you need to figure it out also when you're coming to the studio. How do you actually like? What do you do before game? What do you do after game? When do you eat on match day? Because like times are like you can play from 18 to 22. So and here you're moving as well. So when are you actually eating? Do you always wait to come back to the gaming hours? Like everything, you need to figure out everything. And this was, I mean, I was not particularly stressed or anything. I knew like it was a full year process, and like my goal was just to make worlds. Like that was my goal. That was the goal I've made. I mean, I told BDS like even one new year before that in the academy. I mean, it was not my personal goal, but more as I wanted BDS to make worlds because I didn't know at that time that they will not keep grabs. But I was saying like with the academy, I think we can have a great roster in 2023 to make worlds. So that was my goal regardless, and I'm really happy like we achieved that. But yeah, winter was a full figure these things out. We failed at best of 3 because we had no process for best of 3. That's basically it, you know. So yeah.
How do you go about figuring out those processes? I mean, one of the things, again, we talk about the short timescales of esports, but one of the things that I think, again, people who are in charge of these timescales don't really consider is that there is so much, especially as the head coach, there's so much planning and so much processes that you should be thinking about, and we kind of go so fast that we don't really ever address them, I think, a lot of the time. So an example that I give a lot is one of my favorite coaching or coaches or stories of coaching, I don't know exactly how I would say that, but is Clive Woodward when he came and worked with the England team, and he says in his biography he had something like 6 months to prepare for what to do with the team, and he says it was nowhere near enough. Whereas
Yeah.
in esports we sometimes get like a couple of weeks or like a month if you're really lucky. So to think about all these things, how do you actually go about doing it? I mean, is it just a case of constantly reviewing what's going on, weekly meetings, or do you plan and guess? Like, how do you go about that in the most efficient way?
I mean, first of all, as I said, I was, I mean, lucky in a way that I was already in the org, right? So I knew people, I knew their vision, I knew like what was my goals and what I had to do, right? Look, so first of all, I had sometimes to um, put myself into the project and not just arriving and poof, like you need to do everything and yeah. So first, this transition was kind of okay, and yeah, after I just you need to be a great listener, like someone that listen carefully about everything that comes around you, like even informal talks or like everything that you can grasp, or like any takeaway, you know, like a small talk between two players about one little thing, you need to keep it in mind because this little thing can grow, like, you know, like become a problem or become also a good thing. Like also something that we have tendency of focusing too much is our issues, right? And if your whole environment is screaming, there is 10 problems, but also they are screaming, there is two good things, you need to not forget about those two good things because on the process you will just try to solve the 10 bad things and you will not keep the two good things, and then you just like keep going, and then you never solve the problem or like make your environment stable enough. So it's about being a great listener, and have a I mean I took by my side the I think a staff that was mm, complementing me. That's what I was looking for. And so I could also like extract the most out of them and take my decision based on so many people. I think also I was maybe one of the few ones to like bring so many. I mean, one of the biggest staff we had, like in the LEC, I think. Like I had two assistant coach, and I think no one had two assistant coach last year. I don't remember. I think maybe one or two. But yeah, I was trying to include everyone. Same for our data analyst. I wanted he was not full time on site with us, but I wanted him to give as many feedbacks as possible and to be part of understanding. I mean, he was always on the chat group with our players, so he knew what we were talking about. He knew what was the meta read, like everything is. He didn't have to ask, you know. And I think providing those information as smoothly as possible to everyone gives you the fastest feedbacks as well. So yeah, just
Did
need
you know going in that you wanted two assistant coaches, or does that come
yeah.
out as you do the interview process, or you knew already?
Yeah, I knew already. I mean, for a few reasons. Because I already had Menkyu with me the year before, but I knew I wanted an extra one to like, because as you said, I think coach and especially head coach has too many responsibilities and too many things to look up for. And as I said as well, it's the same for me. It's like at the end of the year, I want to be happy. I don't want to be burned out completely. Like not, I mean, I was still burned out at the end of the year as this year, but for other reasons. But you need to get the tools that you need. Like, don't like think of yourself as like a superhero, right? Um, so yeah, I needed and I wanted more people because I think you need like if you just think on daily basis, if you're two, speaking with 5 players, it's rough. Even if you include managers, right? Then it's 3. But if you're 4 already, then it's more manageable. Like to cover everyone and every single issue that you can have, and also it just like on a more like practical way, I wanted someone to be like completely focused on scouting and someone that be more focused on our players. So also on that regard, yeah, I needed someone else. Like I needed to add one.
Okay, you were talking about optimizing time and space. I love that as a distinction, and just to kind of
Yeah.
give you like makes it clear for everybody. As much as you're happy sharing, how did you end up optimizing time? If we take time first.
I think this point it was a full year process. Like I mean, it's always a ongoing process, right? You always need to change. Also, like don't be afraid of changing few things if you see there is no results. And also, I think to optimize time and space, you need to be creative. But also to see good. I mean, not good. To see like truthful results. You need to give time to your process to see actually and not like rush the conclusion and say after 1 week, oh, this was shit or this was good, right? You need to give it a try for at least I would say like a few months. But for time, I think for me it was more about on a weekly basis than on a daily basis. It's just like often we speak as a staff. I mean, formal or informal. I think this year I learned more about how to make things formal versus informal, and how to have like important reports and important like I would say. I mean, just the balance of writing these things down and to have like a good way of keeping track of things, but at the same time not doing it too much because otherwise you're losing yourself on the way and there is too much information, and also you're burning yourself for not much results. So it was about this mainly, and yeah, more on a weekly basis. As I said, it's more about how often do we go out, or I mean, this is specific to the players that you have and the projects that you have as well, and the orgs that you're in and where you are, like in the city, all the stuff. But um, I think like often we go to restaurant, often we go do football or like practicing another activity, just go outside. So it was more about using our evenings because the first thing the first rule I had at the start of the year was we'll start from 11 and we'll finish at 10 p.m. That's 11 hours of being in the office. That's was my only rule. And then after I improved what I've put into this schedule.
What was like an example day of that 11 hours? So everyone, yourself as well, get there at 11 o'clock, and then
Yeah,
how does it break down?
you come to have like one extra rule to this schedule. It was like because I always push my players to go to the gym, but it was not mandatory because it's not covered. Uh, it was not covered. But when it's covered, I think it should be mandatory. I mean, it's just a money things. But my extra rule was if you go to the gym in the morning, you can come to 11:30, and if you go to the evening, you can leave at 9 p.m. instead of 10. But yeah, and I trust if they leave early or come late, that they are doing their gym session. And everyone was, I mean, not we didn't have like full roster going to the gym, but people that was doing it were like really like clean about it, so no issues there. But a specific day was just like 11. I mean, as I said, it changed so many times this year. So to make a average of what happened this year, it will be 11. Then at 12:15 we'll eat. Then at 12:30 we'll do meeting. Then at 1 p.m. we will scrim first block. Then during the break we'll go outside, eat a small snack, go to bakery. Then second block will finish around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Then we'll like do another like small meeting that was like to review our drafts of the day. And then we'll just like do individual one-on-one. When we'll eat, we'll do one-on-ones, review lanes, and then you are like chilling for the last hour.
Cool. You mentioned before making a kind of clearer distinction between formal and informal meetings.
Yeah.
How did you do that, and how did that help?
I mean, I don't know if it's specific to myself, but for me, I'm more of an informal guy because I don't know, I prefer to be light and to be on the floor and get information, or like just speaking about light stuff and then ending up with great information. But that was my way. And then obviously, when you're going to an higher level, you need to have like this kind of traceability. So it was more like, okay, I mean, our weekly meetings were like already writing down everything was what and done, and you had the traceability there, but it just like trying to mix. It was a bit of an experiment, but trying to mix as much as possible. But I think I didn't do a great job on that part. I did like almost 0 or 1. Like either I was doing only informal, either I was doing only formal. But for the future, I will do a bit of both. Like because doing only formal meetings, it's so exhausting. It's like just so exhausting. You're just like you're becoming a secretary, and you're just like writing stuff like 24/7, and yeah, you're just like your energy level is going down like so fucking fast. So but yeah, you need still to do a bit of both. So first for your like your director or like your upper management to know exactly in which direction you're going, but also for yourself, like to every evening check, okay, what's our goal for this week, remind yourself, and also to look back like 1 month ago what we were working on and what was our conclusions. And yeah, so it's for sure like you need both, but going into one extreme is bad.
I really like that. I was talking to my wife yesterday about meetings. I was saying I really like meetings. I like talking to people,
Yeah.
hence why I'm doing this. But I do think that people need to take meetings really seriously in a way. That doesn't mean you can't have fun in meetings. What I mean is that, let's say we've got 5 people here, or sometimes there's more, but let's say there's 6 of us, and we spend 10 minutes like wasting time. That's like an hour of the company's time, I think, is a better way to think about it. So you spend 20 minutes not getting anything done, 2 hours are gone. So we have to like, if we're going to have meetings, they have to be like really, we know what we're going to accomplish, and like it's all very clear. And you're right, as soon as you start doing that, you can't do that all the time. Like it becomes exhausting. And the little moments, like they're so important. That's one of the things I really missed in the LFL. The whole point was we were going to be offline, and that's one of the big reasons I kind of signed on. And then in the end, we couldn't be, and that's the part I missed the most. It's slightly better to do VOD reviews in when they can see the players and stuff, but the part that's really important is all the like, you're just walking, like you just meet someone walking around, and you're just like the little chats like become like so useful as well.
I completely agree, but I think, yeah, as you said, you need to have these formal meetings to optimizing your time 100%, and that's really something that I learned this year, like to be optimizing your meeting. And once again, I did not perfectly. But that's something I'll keep doing for sure, because you need to come prepared to the meeting. You need to know exactly what you're gonna speak about, and you need to close the meeting as fast and as soon as everything is done. Uh, so it teach you how to optimize your time 100%. So I think it's a great exercise. But as you said, second part, you need also to enjoy the human level of things, and because it's really like robotic level of it needs to be done clean, blah blah. But I enjoyed like having my little chats, like natural chats, genuine chats with my staff and my players at that time as well. And yeah, so you need to bring both for sure.
There's a fantastic podcast with Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon and stuff, where he's talking about meetings. And of course, someone in that position has to be even more like careful about the meetings. And I think some of the stuff he has is really, really interesting. I don't know if it would apply to League of Legends, but he's basically saying that exact same thing that you just said. Like, in a sense, you have to take meetings very seriously, and he's like very, very structured, but also that kind of wondering where there's a meandering around, conversationally. Amazing stuff can happen there, but you don't know it's going to happen. So it's like this balance. So they've started doing this thing where when they come to a meeting, especially meetings with the senior people, rather than having bullet points or a slideshow, the person who's presenting something has to write it out in, like we would say, prose, like proper sentences, proper writing, all that kind of thing. And then there's a printout for everybody. They come into the room, and then everyone sits down quietly and reads the whole thing, and then they discuss it, which I think is quite an interesting idea, because there's so many things where you're like, oh, to optimize our time, it'd be great if everyone had seen this thing, or if everyone had thought about this idea. So I'm going to send around some bullet points in advance. But then everyone's really busy. You're in the LEC, you're competing, or in this case, you're part of this massive company. It's just, is it worth the time to make sure we're all on the same page? And the conclusion they came to was yes. I'm not sure how exactly it would work in an esports context, because so much of what I want to do is show people stuff. I don't know how you write down and then fake a flashed over them. I don't think that really works.
Yeah, maybe not. But I heard he banned PowerPoint, I think, in his meetings or something. I heard the story. I think it's really interesting. I mean, at the end of the year, at the end of the day, it's just like you always come back. I mean, it's always like this curve, like this learning curve. But being an expert into something is just like at the end of the day, you're just coming back to the basics and making things simple. Because at the end of the day, what's important is at the start, even though you're like all the meanings of what you're saying became so deep, but the words will come back to the same ones, from the basics. And I think it's something important to make things as easy and as simple as possible.
I love that. I think that's one of the main roles of a coach. There's a guy, Steve Hansen, who was the All Blacks coach for a long time, like in their most successful period. And when he was asked what is coaching, he said, making it as simple as possible. That's the one-line answer. I really, really like that. It's like the whole point is everyone should hear it and think, I can do that. Yeah. That's literally the point.
Completely.
So we covered how you optimize time. How about space? How did you go about doing that? Because that's also something that I think I enjoy things a bit cleaner than most esports players. So maybe that's why I'm particularly sensitive to it. Yeah. But how do you go about optimizing space for performance?
I mean, I always enjoy optimizing space, because I did I studied arts and 3D and 2D arts. So I think I have a great visual, like, what do you say it? Like simulation, like I can.
Yeah, like a good eye.
Yeah, I have a good eye to optimize space, and but basically it's just like making sure people. I mean, it's a bit of complex thing, like speaking about it without any examples, I think. But it's more about making sure your players have enough space to feel comfortable, but at the same time, everything is as close as possible to them. So, I mean, okay, I'll give one example, like that didn't apply in BDS, but just a global example. It's just like, for example, your players. I mean, the first one is how do you position your players in the practice room? Do you make if can you make them align in the line like they are in EDC? If you can't, how do you optimize the space like otherwise? Um, but also, I think the best example is where do you put water in your office? So do you make it as far as possible so your players need to work and to get like some, I would say like distance from their PC and from the screen? Or do you make it just as close as possible so it's convenient? I think that's a really great example of how do you actually manage and optimize your space. And yeah, like then it's the whole culture thing that comes in. It's just like, do you make it so you're like make it easy for your players, or you make it to make it healthy for your players? That's two different topics. But yeah, that's an example on also like how you inspire. Like, I mean, for me, it's how you use your walls, I think. For example, like I always like this idea of putting your goals on the wall. Like it should be visual and it should be always there. I think that's really, really important. But also something that I did, I've put like pictures of great sports like players on the wall. Like I've put, as I said, I'm very bad with names, but I've put Jordan, I've put Federer, um, I've put Magnus, and I've put I think it was T1 versus DRX. So just I've had three pictures of great achieved sportsmen and one of World Final. To like there is a link there, and it might be like, I mean, most of players didn't know the names of those people, but it's okay. It just to inspire something, you know, like when we made finals in Spring, we printed the picture of our final and we put it on the wall, you know, to say we achieved this, we'll come back there. And I think that's really important to come into an office where there is a vibe, you know, there is something that's like actually translate into your culture, and you can say, I mean, you can if a complete stranger comes in, he needs to say this is special, like and there is something that those people are working for something here, and there is like, yeah, there is a culture, and I think you need to mix and you need to inspire yourself with what the world has to offer, and not only, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think people are really like conservative. They want to only show what they did and what they achieved, but I think the world is so much bigger than that. You need to just like look outside of the window and just like get everything that you can to inspire your players. That's why like I've put like I choose Jordan because I mean it's everyone knows Jordan. I hope though. Minus because I had some players playing chess, and Federer because we were coming from Switzerland, right? So it was like it made sense. It made sense, and I think you need to find those connections to create the space.
Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating topic. Like, especially when we're talking about high performance, but even just normal office layouts and stuff like that. I think there's so much that goes into them, and we see things where, I don't know, it's the kind of studies where I think you should always take it with a pinch of salt, but just being near other high performers in an environment that feels like high performing, even if they're not doing the same job as you, it massively increases the output of people. And the reverse is true as well. Like if you're in an environment where people are not happy to be there, they're coming there to do like the bare minimum and leaving, it makes everyone worse. Again, even if they're not in the same job or the same company or anything like that. I think there's so much we can go into here because we, for the LEC application, we had to do just like design an office. But because that was like the ultimate we didn't have a space. I'd never been to Berlin.
Yeah.
Like we were in some like house in Reading that 8 people were living, like 3 people to a room kind of idea, and just saying if we had infinite money, what would we do? And I just had
Okay.
so much fun like thinking of all the different things.
For sure.
So I mean, again, I want to. We can keep it kind of mostly theoretical, right? And then it's not like giving anything away or anything. What do you think about having the VOD review place? Do you have it in the same room as the Scrim room, separate, 2 different parts of the same room? If you could optimize it, what would you do?
If I can optimize it, it's gonna be in different room, 100%. Like, cause, like once again, it's like players. I mean, first, I think the coaching room should be the review room. So it's just like players are coming into your room, and it's the working room. Like, it's where they review. It's where we spin. It's where like it's more. It's linked to what their image of a coaching staff should be, right? It's just like they're coming to meet you, and they know they're gonna speak with their coaches, and we're gonna speak about the game. So it's just like ideally it should be like the review room, it's the coaching room, and then also coaches during the game can speak about the game, because and that I mean, as coaches, you don't need to move. Everything is prepared when players come. Also, it makes your players like move from their chair. It's small things, but I think it's important. And yeah, like I think also what I like is I think I mean we talked we even tried one thing last year because we had an issue with I mean players were like had this bad habit of coming to the review room on the sofa, and because it's a bit of a low sofa, they will like start falling asleep, lucky, right? So at some point we moved the sofa and we put 5 chairs, and it didn't work out really well. They were still like more focused, but even for like they were not feeling comfortable, not really participating. It was I don't really like it was not results were not great,
Okay.
but it was a nice try. I think you need the best of sofa as possible, but I still prefer the sofa because players are closer to each other. So there is no space between them. They can like even I mean, touch each other and like joke and like laugh about things. And so I prefer like the sofa. But yeah, you need your players to be like listening, looking at the same screen all together, create this group dynamic. I think like group dynamic is one of the best topics that I've studied the whole like 5 last year. I think that's really important, and it's also like linked to optimizing your space and time. Um, yeah, you're just like mm, ideally, oh yeah. I mean, to answer your question, you separate.
Separate. It's interesting you say that about the couch because I haven't actually done this, but I don't know if it's because I decided this and then suddenly I didn't end up doing any more coaching or the other way around. But what I wanted to try, which if you think it's complete nonsense, do tell me. I would even try standing for the VOD review. Like
Yeah,
currently I'm standing. I mean, if anyone's worked at a bar or something like that, like the first few shifts, you're like, you think you're going to die, like standing up for like
yeah,
6 hours or something. But it quite quickly becomes more comfortable. Not more comfortable, but it's easy to keep people more engaged and more alert and what
yes,
kind of thing.
yes.
And it's different from sitting. So do you think that's just a complete non-starter? Do you think that's a fight that might even be worth having, or am I just crazy?
I think I mean what like my takeaway from trying the chairs, it just um, it for sure should on paper like improve your involvement in and engagement in the discussion. But I think at the end, players' comfort is number one priority, and you, I mean, it's at the end, it's about their own discipline and their own personalities. So I think you need to solve more of this part and how to make them involved by being on the sofa. But like forcing them to be standing, I think it will just create torture in their mind, and on paper it should work. I think it's something that you can do spontaneously, like chairs, same, but it will not work on the long term. I don't think so. But like, as I said, I like new ideas and I like to try things. So I might try it in the future as well. I will tell you if it works.
Yeah,
but
let me know. Well, I think as
but
well, like it will keep our VOD reviews focused and shorter because if you can go and sit down when we're done.
but also if they are standing up, there is a higher chance that they actually start fooling around, and because they will like have too much energy or like too much I can tell you, too much things to think about, and yeah, so it might actually like I don't know, but I don't think it will work.
Yeah, fair enough. The other thing, I mean, I'd love to get onto the group dynamic stuff as well, but first sticking on this space idea, do you have a specific approach to like the scrim room? I know there's some people, well, this might not be true, but Sheepy used to be famous for being really strict around the scrim room. Like there's people who have a little bucket for phones where phones go in the bucket before you go into the scrim room. One thing that we really wanted to do, but unfortunately didn't work for reasons. I wanted to have scrim rooms and then a different like solo queue room. So
Yeah.
we only come in there to scrim. Those computers only have League of Legends on. Like you're only ever doing work there. And if you're ever playing for fun, that's great. You're playing, you can play in another room or you're streaming or whatever. So do you have a specific thing that you think is optimal in terms of how you approach the scrim room?
I mean, we are the same about phones. It's like during streams, phones were like inside the box. 100%. They can like take them. I just check them after the review before like the next game starts. But the phones will stay in the box during the game and during the review. But like anyway, it's the same. Like if a player wants to check his social medias, he will do it on his PC. So you need either to be a completely dictator and just like set up the PCs to not allow anything else than League, right? And it's possible, but I'm more. I prefer to also educate and to let space for the players to educate themselves and to not, I would say, like teach them by violence, right? It's just like I want them to grow by themselves, and I just want to show them the direction. And at the end of the day, decision should be theirs. Either they do it, or they don't. Either they're serious, either they're not. But it's coming back to what we said at the start. Is like for me, being a great coach is also to teach your players how to grow at a human level and individual level. So this is part of it. And if you have the office to separate, as you said, like solo queue and scrims, I will not separate solo queue and scrims, but like T1, I will separate streaming and working space, I would say. So like for sure it's great. So I have like little boxes where you can stream. I think it's really like fucking great idea. But except than that, I think their working space is their working space, and solo queue should feel like work, but not as much as Scream. So the only thing that, I mean, also I think there's not many orgs that can have like 2 rooms for separate both. I think it's really hard, and I don't think it brings you that much like improvement. I think it just the only thing that you need to I would say to put as rules is just like, yeah, phones are out, desks are clean. That's something I didn't completely checked, but I think it's really important. Desks should be really clean during scrims, and during solo queue, you let them do whatever they want. They can have like, I don't know, their drinks on the table, or like their phone on the table, and they can put their feet on the table if they want. It's their desk, you know. So it just like separates both about just attitude, just the attitude, but the space can be the same. For me,
Mm.
it's more the mental space that is different.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. Of course, like everything that you're doing in a space, like you really have to be able to justify it. I mean, we talked about the
Yeah,
the management versus the coaches is the wrong way of saying it,
yeah,
but yeah, you obviously have to. You can't just be asking for like everything. That's why it was quite fun to do the exercise where you just imagine there's an infinite money. I also love the like educating people rather than enforcing it, because as soon as you start enforcing it, it's like, okay, you might be able to get that one behavior. It's going to be a lot of effort, but you might
yeah,
be able to get that one behavior. But what you're kind of demonstrating, or the dynamic that you're encouraging, is this like parent kid kind of thing where
yes,
they see what they can get away with in your rule set, and
yeah,
then you have to somehow, then now suddenly we've got to put rules over everything. I'm just finishing a book about Fiji Sevens team, rugby sevens, and they were talking about that a lot. There were coaches who the way they do sevens is they do tournament circuit, so they go all around the world, and each
okay,
different country organises the tournament. So the RFU organises the one in the UK, and the different rugby organisations organise the ones in their country. And there's a moment where he was observing a bunch of coaches who were really, really upset that a tournament organizer had accidentally put like cupcakes in the buffet in the morning,
okay,
because they were saying, well, they've got so much sugar and all my players just had
yeah,
loads of cupcakes. And he was like, this is just such a strange approach, because they will always be able to do things, like they'll always be able to break the rules. And so
yes,
unless you're educating them and putting the work in to get that buy-in, that this is the best thing for us to do, is to take this scrim room seriously and take our scrim time seriously and take our practice time seriously, then it's always going to be like you have to police them, and then it's never going to
yeah.
be that optimal.
And you're losing energy, you're losing time, and you're not building any good habits for them, and it's just like it will just eat you in like I mean, it will come back and it will be a disaster at some point. Like even for for purely for their future, even without you, it's not in my values just to enforce or to force something just for winning. I don't buy that. It's just like for me, it's you need to make people understand that it's this way. Your vision is good. You know what you're doing, and you do it for them. And as I said, if they understand that you genuinely um, want their best and their happiness, they will like follow you. Like that's it sounds simple. Obviously, it's hard, but that's the way of things should be done for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like almost thinking about it like I don't know, if you're a CEO, for example, and you come to a
Mhm.
company, you want to leave and it to still keep doing well.
Yeah,
That's what I want as a coach. I want to not be there and scrims could still be really productive,
yeah,
because we know
exactly.
how we approach things. We know how we do the pre-scrim meeting to make sure we're all on the same page. We know our approaches to the draft, like we know everything. So, maybe maybe you never actually reach that, but I think it's a great goal to have as a coach,
Yeah,
is to be
for
like,
sure.
you're almost working to make yourself obsolete, but it's because, especially in League of Legends, when the game starts, that's it.
Yes, you're not
They are
part
alone.
of it. Yes. So yeah, 100%. But I think that's a philosophy that I embraced. Now I'm trying to take a little step back about it to focus a bit more about winning. Because obviously, if you want to be successful, you need to go through winning. And but I don't want to sacrifice this. Like I think it's so important to just have your players coming back and say like, I became. I don't care about I won or I achieved these things in league. I want players to coming back and say, I've grown as a human, and thanks to you for that. Like that's the biggest achievement that you can have.
Great. I think it's really inspiring. You mentioned, while we were talking about the space, talking about group dynamic as well.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about culture from an organization point of view. Is group dynamic just the kind of group version of that?
I think it's a bit okay. There is like one coach that my top one coach is Phil Jackson. Um, uh, I really like how he pictures groups. For him, it was like he did the parallel with Indians, like Indian culture, and what's about tribes, spiritual level of connection, like all this stuff. I'm not like a religious person, but I think there is things to take from any like religion. Um, and I think group dynamic is very interesting because obviously like there is like for me there is three levels of group dynamics. There is your whole organization dynamic with like upper management director, all this stuff. Then there is I mean to precise more, otherwise I will lose you. But it's like director with coaching staff and players. Then there is coaching staff with players. Then there is only players. Like there is three dynamics. Um, and then it's about making sure the most important one is players dynamic. Making sure that when the two steps above are out, they are still like the best dynamic possible from players. And that's when scouting is really, really important because you need personalities to match, and you need not only to match, but you need someone to bring voice. Obviously, it's the same. You cannot have 5 leaders, you cannot have 5 followers, you cannot have 5 veterans, you cannot have 5 rookies. It's about mixing um, people that trust each other, people that understand who is in charge, but at the same time, the guy in charge is not a dictator and he's like listening to others to find the best call possible. So it just like all those small pieces when you're making the roster to understand who's gonna take the blame, who's gonna be the most accountable guy, who's gonna also help you to bring what you're coaching and the notions that you're working on inside the players, inside the game. Because as a coach, you can show the direction, which and you can like repeat 500 times to make it happen. But if you have someone that relay the information and focus on what you're working efficiently, then instead of 100 games, it will take you 5 games. So obviously you need someone for the pure practice aspect, but you need someone also for the official aspect, someone that has strong shoulders, will not get um, eaten by pressure, and just like someone that's always like help others to um, to chill the mood and to say, guys, we lost one fight. It's completely fine. Like we can attack next, or we can do this, or like blah blah blah. So we need someone with cold blood, and yes, that's what group dynamic is about. And same with coaches. It's like as a coach, you want to be part of the dynamic, but at the same time not. It's the same with like how we want to teach them the game, or like at the personal level, right? It's just like you want to be part of the team, but at the same time, you cannot completely be part of the team because at the end they are on the field by themselves. So yeah, it's a mix. You need to be important and not. It's a balance that you need in the limits that you need to find.
So once you've done the scouting, let's say you've got all your staff, all your players, and obviously you're in the organization, how do you go about making sure that all these dynamics are the most optimal? Like, do you start at the top and work down? Do you start at the bottom and work up? How do you approach it?
I think I think it's very specific to the roster and players that you have. There is no like one way of doing things. You need to adapt. I think you need to have the best adaptability of as possible. Um, I think for me, what I like to do is just like to let not give too much inputs at first. Just watch what's going on naturally. Which player take leads at I don't know early game, mid game. Who's talking about this objective? Who's talking about more? I don't know who is the most aggressive one, who is the most defensive one. Who wants to perma dive, who wants to just do objectives and play macro, and just then you need to reinforce their strengths. I think you cannot come and say, my support will shot call from, like the typical thing. Like, I think even though it should be optimal, but your jungler will call so shot call from 0 to 14 all early game, and then your support will take over, and then like blah blah blah, and every players will have their own responsibility in the game, but from roster to roster it will change, and that's also one thing I'm teaching players individually is like your role will change over your career, right? And over like your rosters. Sometimes you can be the carry, sometimes you cannot. Also depending on the meta, but I think it's more team identity is more important than the meta. So it just like you need, when you're building your roster, you need to look for the things, and then when you start practice, it's your players that will give you your dynamic, not you that will force your dynamic into the players. Otherwise, they will go in like against their nature, and then obviously at some point, if something is completely missing, a piece is completely missing, you need to teach them to include this new piece, and you need to choose which player you're gonna. I don't know. No one is shot calling the thing. You need to implement it into one player, but yeah, it comes from understanding your player strengths and just not try to imagine or like create from your mind and just like say, oh, but things should be done like that. Like, no, one formula will not work with your whole career, you know? So you need to understand them at a human level. That's
And it
my
builds
take.
from the game out, or as in when you say you're watching for their natural tendencies, is this their natural tendencies just in the game, or how they are socially, how they are when they're all at lunch together or dinner together, or is it in the game primarily and then that translates?
That's the fun part, because I think it's two separate things. Like for example, your in-game leader can not be your out-game leader. You know, I think that's a really interesting things to observe. And I think like many people will really like. I mean, psychologists or anything like social. How do you say it in English? Like people that study like population, you know, or
Yeah,
groups.
sociologist.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, social. I think like they will like enjoy this kind of research, because I think it's two separate things. I think, for example, I think outside of the game, your coach can be low-key your leader. You know, the guy that people will like look up for and just like follow and whatever. But you need someone else to take charge, like to take charge in game. Otherwise, you just like something. You have something outside, and then in game, it's not here. So what are we doing? Like, um, so yeah, I think it's two completely different things, and that's why I said the player's dynamic is the most important. Like, and then with your coaching staff dynamic is the second step, but it cannot work in the like the other way around. Like, you need to find and to work for your player dynamic first, and when you yeah, and the most important is the in-game dynamic, and what happened outside of the game. You can also, as a coaching staff, adapt to it, and like to um, yeah, to complete the puzzle. So, for example, I don't know, outside of the game, you have 5 clowns. You need to be more chill, right? You need to be the one that reasonable, chilling, not giving too much energy, so they don't burn out outside of the game. But it's the other opposite. If you have 5 silent players, I mean, it should not happen, right? If you did great scouting, but if you have 5 silent players, you need to be the one giving energy in review and giving the input. You know, so it's where like your dynamic as the coaching staff um, complement what your players dynamic needs outside of the game. But the first and most important is your player dynamic inside the game.
Mm. And then how do you start approaching that third area, organization and staff? What's your approach?
I mean, this one is a bit tricky because I like um, a project to be with as many people as possible. So it like also, I think for players it's really healthy to feel like you're not isolated, because I think it's really easy to feel isolated when you're only, I don't know, 5 players with 2 coaches, okay, with 1 data analyst that is not there, you know. So you are 8 people, like 7.5, and you're like this the whole year. I think it's kind of shit. Like at some point you're just the same dynamic, nothing new, nothing, and that's why I like to have open management director to be close to the project. So like they are around, they have their own things to handle. It's not completely linked on daily basis to what we are doing, but they are around, so players can see them. They can speak about other things that has nothing to do with league. They can talk around. They can and at some point, at some moment, we'll do team activities with them as well, so they don't feel, you know, it's this whole dynamic of breaking the bubble about league, because you have your competitive bubble where it's players and coaches, but your bubble, you need to make it safe space, but at the same time not isolated from the world. So that's what helps you to actually bring the world in the bubble and not also have like strangers. That because the risk if you bring too many strangers is like your bubble will explode or like will just break and people will start to like wear things or whatever. But your open management is close enough to be part of the bubble, so you can bring them in, but they are not on a daily basis in your bubble. So it brings like this new fresh air spontaneously.
I like that because I completely agree that making people feel less isolated is good for everybody. I mean, we talked about being near high performers is good for you regardless of whether they're doing the same job, all that kind of stuff. But at the same moment, I was talking to Romain about this, and he said, well, a big part of his job is protecting the players and protecting that bubble. So how do you try and find the balance there where you kind of want to bring people in and you want to make them aware that the players aren't super precious, they're not going to like break into a million pieces if you say hi, but also in a sense they actually are a bit like you can't be chatting to them about, I don't know, saying the wrong thing or talking to them about how important the game is if you've been talking to them about how we should not be focusing on results or whatever the case may be. So how do you find that balance when you're in this situation?
I think it's kind of, I mean, for me, you just need to not overthink it too much. It's the same as when you educate a child. It's just like, it's by doing mistakes that they will learn. So, or like being open to the world and getting hurt, right? So it's like it's the same. It's like if you have a great culture or like you're teaching them to take to be accountable and to take responsibilities about what they are doing and not what you choose to do. I think then if someone says this game is really important, blah blah blah, and it gets into the nerves when you said it's not, then they should know and they should like be able to separate those things and to understand that this guy is from outside. It's like completely. It's the same with social medias, right? It's like players are getting influenced by social medias when they have no clue what's going on. So obviously, you can be affected, or you can say, "Oh, I mean, it's human to to feel things and to say, oh fuck, like why does he say that? Try to understand the public opinion, but you cannot get impacted by it because they have 1% of the insight. So you need to separate things and you need to be mature enough to understand, or then to completely block outside views of or on your work. But you, I mean, you need to protect the bubble, and no matter what, it's really like at precise moment, because 99% of the time you don't have in like external interactions. So it's just about whenever you're going to the studio and see fans. But even here, it's like just pure pleasure to see like that you're actually playing for people. You're not playing only for yourself and for you winning. We are like in an entertainment industry, and we are playing to make people feel things, enjoy things, and be motivated, like feel those kind of emotions. And yeah, you need to not isolate your players from those things, but at the same time make them understand that to be the best and to give your best, you cannot let outside perspectives influence or like attack you. Like it's so yeah, just push them towards it, make them understand and make them get hurt sometimes, and then they will learn.
And it's like the rules thing we were talking about before. It's like if you make it super strict and like no one's allowed to speak to anyone outside of the team, then it's like you have to enforce that, you have to police that, and all this kind of thing. I think it's a very good attitude and a very good approach to it. Although again, it does come up against the downside of these super short turnarounds that we have in esports. So unfortunately,
but I say it's really like spontaneously. Like there is, I think if you watch your splits, I mean in LFL you have like 2 LFL days a year, so there is 2 times where you actually see fans. In LEC you see them 3 times a week. So it's more about social medias actually, but your bubble is still intact, and I think like your number one priority is still to protect your bubble, no matter what. But like a parent, right? It's like you want your child to experiment and to grow, but at the same time you don't want him to get hurt badly. You like little like picks on his skins, so he can like learn how to see the world and how the world function. But yeah, just protect but not isolate. I think that's the words.
One of the things it's a bit of a pivot, but it's something I've wanted to talk to you about for a long time.
Yeah.
That I'm really curious about. You guys had that, I forgot what they even called it, qualification series for Worlds, which, as far as I'm aware, isn't something like that exact kind of situation. Isn't something that we've ever experienced in LoL. I don't know if we kind of ever will.
It was first time, yeah.
Massive break, like 3 or 4 patches difference, no warm-up games, just straight in, knockout, best of 5. Suddenly, like everything was like so different. I'm a really big proponent on making stuff conscious and talking about it and thinking about it. And so, whenever there's stuff like, okay, now the drafts are pre-recorded, my instant thing is, okay, as soon as I hear that, okay, what do I think that's good for? What do I think that's bad for? How should we approach it? How should we practice it? All that kind of thing. I think some people are maybe a bit more intuition based. So I've seen some behind the scenes of people who it seems like they hadn't discussed the fact that they were going to have 15 minutes to talk about things. So this kind of thing is just absolutely fascinating to me, this series. So how did you approach it? So from the moment you're going to be in the series, as far as I remember, everyone knew it was already going to be Golden Guardians, but they didn't play for ages before you played them. They could have been a new team.
2 months, yeah. I mean, for sure.
So how do you approach it?
It was a bit hard to do the scouting part, but at the same time, you had so much time to prepare that it was not that hard. In the way that, I mean, we came to Korea like almost 2 weeks before the game. We played, I think, 10 scrims. So still like a lot of data and a lot of practice. I think they did the same. We were about the same schedule. But how do you prepare? I mean, you need to scout players' tendencies over champions' patterns. But I mean, both are linked. Because obviously, if you scout and it's a team that needs to play through mid, they will draft mid jungle. If I don't know, like this kind of patterns, if they play through bot for 2v2s, they will like maybe last pick support, like this kind of stuff. So you find patterns, you find all players have like their bad habits, their good habits, and you just like, I mean, what we did really good is just we took our time to show players things but not not one time. We did like I think three meetings where we just like implement. Okay, first step, they will probably play like this. So today we'll practice this way. We practice this way. We develop or like I would say anti-GG style. So we start going this way, and then 3 days later we implement a second step of okay, now we go a bit more deep. If they do like this direction, like their second step will do this. They will do this. Or if we do this, their pattern will be to react like this way. And then we practice this way. And then we did a third time. And one day before we did all like recap. That's all the things that we practice, the things that they will do. We know what they will do. We go this way. And then you need to have like, I mean, the hard part was about meta read and draft, right? But at the same time, you're screaming. So, like meta reads are like a bit, I mean, they scream same teams as us. So at the end, it's not completely blind. You see some patterns that will match their team identity. So you find out like what they will probably prioritize in draft and what you should prioritize as well. So yeah, it was like, I mean, no bad regard to them, but I think we were like really way more prepared than them. And I don't think they did as much coding as we did, and they didn't implement as many steps as we did. But I mean, also what you don't know, and this is a big question mark, is like how their mental state will be, or like how players will feel. They will like actually fight for 5 games and like back and forth, and they will not let anything go, or they will break like easily like they did, in my opinion. After game 2, I think we knew it was a 3-0, but no matter what, you need to be prepared for 5 games. But yeah, I don't think they were prepared for 5 games. So that's something that it's a big question mark. But on the whole, your self preparation, I think we did everything clean.
So how do you feel coming into the game? I know you afterwards maybe you felt that they weren't as prepared enough, but especially when you've had this goal of getting BDS to Worlds, you're literally one best of 5 away.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
technically it's not Worlds, even though it was very similar. How did you feel coming into the game itself?
I mean, as I said, it was like 2 weeks process of getting prepared. So, I mean, your head is you're feeling good. Like it's not a week to week, or like it's not you need to prepare for 2 games in a row. Like you just like prepare for one, and that's also like something I did wrong for afterwards on the planes. But on the pure this game, we aimed to qualify for Worlds. It was 1 best of 5, so it was kind of all in our heads. And yeah, so if you're prepared as much as we were, you feel no pressure. Like especially after, I mean, if it's completely matched, what they do is completely matching what you prepared for. Like then there is no pressure, like no pressure at all. If they start creating new patterns that you didn't spot, yes, pressure or stress will start to come in your way, game 1 or during the best of, but it was not the case. So like before the game we were not feeling stressed, and during it was smooth. And also, like, I don't know if it was the case for the players, but for me, playing in LoL Park was like insane achievement a bit, like it's so legendary arena, so many great players played there, and the audience, Korean audience is like so crazy. It's like you feel so much energy in this building, so it was like insane.
Great. I love the like confidence in the work. It's like we're prepared, we're ready. and that's really, really good. You mentioned you made a bit of mistake going into play-ins. How is that as well? The pivot from everything is just going into this one game to suddenly now it's like three games a day or whatever it was. Like now it's like
Yeah,
really intense.
it was really intense. I mean, my mistake, it just like after our best of against GG, we took 1 day off, because obviously like it was a long run. We prepared a lot, and I wanted players to reset a bit. But that's basically why against Wales we failed. It just because we took it a bit too lightly. And yeah, like basically we had only 1 day before the game, so we should have just like take an half day off, or like still do a small block of scrims, but not completely like take the full day. This was a really bad read from me. But then we lost, and then we came back and we made to group stage. But yeah, it was really intense after that, and that's where like walls completely eat you. Is like you have no time after that. You have completely no time. Like new environment, new rhythm, new way of preparing things, new way of reading the meta, of adapting to every teams are low key different. Like actually not low key, like they are highly different. So you need to change. I mean, you need to have enough tools, and at the same time be specialized in yourself enough to not adapt to the opponent and just come at them with your identity and just go full hard on them. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was first time, so uh, I didn't know many things, and for sure it was really too high intensity for what I was expecting. But I think that's the way it is for anyone on their first Worlds.
Yeah, I think the people like myself who've never been to compete there don't appreciate sometimes how different it is and how intense it is. And that's why I really like, Pad and Mac have been very open about this fact that they're talking about a 3-year plan now rather than like 2 years, because that's one of the big things. First year, the goal is to just get there, because you're going to have people on your roster who's just never been, and you've got to just experience it before we even consider actually performing well. We've got to just experience it, because it's just not like anything that we do in Europe. So sounds like it's quite similar.
It's 100%, especially for us. We came from LFL to LEC, and then LEC finals. Then we struggled in summer, and we need to prepare for GG. Also, it's like we were then seed 4, and the really downside of this system, of this format, is like people were like, I mean, in the group stage, we were not booking us because they didn't know if we will actually make Worlds, and then every games you need to fight, and every games you can be eliminated. So the one wants to book in advance with you, and even if they want, or like if they are looking at Europe, there are 3 teams above you. So it's really hard to find great scrims. We had like Damwon and LNG, and that was it as really like strong teams. It was still like insane experience, but for sure we couldn't experiment the full worlds like G2 did, and obviously they have more experience and they know how things are run. But coming in as a seed 4 was not easy to also like find great quality.
It's like the game musical chairs. Do you know that?
Yeah.
It's like one too few scrim partners, and then as soon as everyone knows who's going to be in, then they're all gone.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to end with the quickfire questions that I sent you before. Same questions I'm asking everybody. I think it's just really good to see like the different directions that we're all kind of coming from. So firstly, who are the coaches you look up to or idolize, either now or early on in your career?
So I will cheat a bit. I will just like link a coach with a player because I think it's always really interesting to have both perspective and to have like the feedbacks from the player. So every time I'm looking for a coach, I'm looking for one of their players or the other way around. So as I said, like Phil Jackson is my number one with MJ and Kobe. Then I have like Greg Popovich because he had like Tony Parker, and Tony Parker is the French. The French is the first one to achieve and to win a championship in NBA. So great. I would say like not idol because I don't like have really clear idols, but someone that inspired me for sure. And after that, I have like Patrick Mouratoglou, Serena Williams. I think once again, this woman is like tremendous. Like what she did in her sport is like, I mean, you have no words for this. It's just like strength from nature, you know. And one series, like a series I watched on Netflix. It's the Playbook, right? I think many people know this one. And there is one woman that's called Dawn Stanley. Um, so NBA coach, basketball, and WNBA coach now. I think she has. I mean, she was a player before, and she had a really insane story as well. So, and then there is like many others, obviously, but I didn't went too deep into the stories. It's just like I like to just check all the stories, but I'm not someone that dives in really deep. I started like super late. Like it's been 2 years that actually like I started studying coaches or like just reading more because I was not someone that was reading books. So I'm trying to educate myself. I think I know which coach told you this as well. I think maybe it was Mac. But yeah, like at some point you feel like, yeah, actually it's not about league. It's not about league, and it never was. I mean, you still have a level of knowledge that allows you to be there, but after that, it's 90% of your job is not about league. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of thinking about it, where you need like a minimum level of knowledge about the game to
Yeah.
just be kind of in the conversation. And then after that, you're right. Like, I think it's also that we're all getting a bit older and realizing that it's
Yeah,
less and less about league.
for sure.
What's the biggest hardship you've experienced as a coach?
Um, for me, I think it was in 2020 in my year in Immortals in NA, because it was my I was coming from Division 2 in France, and I mean when I'm looking back at it, it just like I had no tools to actually add any impact, or I just like I was not mature enough and just not good enough, and just had not the knowledge that I have now. And it just like I'm really sad when I don't. I mean, it's the same with my greatest memories. It's like it's the opposite. It's like not making people achieve or like be more praised, I think, or just like it's not letting people down, but it's close to it. You know, it's just like not being able to achieve things with those people that I have in Immortals, like Zabotin, Soaz, Eka, just to mention the Frenchies. But it's just like I think they are great peoples, and when I'm looking back at it, I'm like, fuck, like I did actually almost nothing for this team, and I would like to go back and just clutch the fuck out of it and just like do great things with those guys, you know.
And what's your top highlight as a coach?
I mean, at a really personal level, it was obviously to go to Worlds, and not achieving beating GG, but more being in the same hotel at those guys, you know, and meet like you go to the elevator and you cross, I don't know, a faker or a showmaker, a carrier, and you're like, oh shit, actually they exist, you know, actually they're here. Like, so it was just like being there to see them, like at a really personal level. But other than that, it's, as I said, it's about making players achieve things. Like, when I see Irrelevant doing as good as he does now, and um, I'm really glad that I took him in LFL for his first year, and how much he has grown as a man and as a teammate. Like, I think, and just mentally, I think it's insane. Look, just Riker after his bad year in LEC, I mean bad split, bringing him into to BDS and just like having a great split. Same with Adam when he was benched from LEC and making a great split in LFL and in new master. That's the things that are really like, even like this year with Sheo and with like bringing Nuke back when he had like 2 really like hard years. He was mentally not there, but I trusted him. I've told him like, you will make it. I see like potential in you, and you're a great guy. So just like, and obviously also like Ronnie and Labrov, like he just like seeing like all these people like pushing themselves, pushing their limits, and being happy, and keeping growing, keeping improving as a human, and yeah, just when I see them smiling, it's when I'm happy. Like, it just like, even if I'm not there anymore, I'm like, nice, they are achieving what they are dreaming about. So like, that's my best memories.
And what are 3 non-negotiable behaviors that you and the people around you need to buy into?
For me, you need to be open-minded. That's number one. It's like, people have different backgrounds. You need to understand. You need to understand. Try to get to know them and not judge. Like, I think you need to not judge at first sight, and you need to be, yeah, just open-minded in general. And then after that, I think I've put kindness and respect, really, really important. And accountability with discipline. That's the mix of both. Yeah, I think that's the 3 lines for me, that you need to be there. You need to, I mean, as we spoke about, right? You need to be happy, but you need to understand that it's hard work. You need to sacrifice things, and you need to be accountable from your mistake and from also your good parts and your good achievements.
And last question, if you from today could give yourself one piece of advice when you first started your coaching journey, what would it be and why?
I'm not completely sure, because for me, even right now, I feel like I only achieved my first chapter and I just finished my training. Like, I think right now I'm still like a really young coach, and I didn't achieve much, but I've like, yeah, I finished my practice journey. So now it's about making it, I mean, using it and pushing it as fast and as hard as possible to achieve even more and to help even more people. But I think it's a really hard question. I think just be a bit more in the moment. Like, sometimes I'm too like, I'm a really patient guy and too much into like foresight things and preventing stuff to happen. So I always like protected my players. But now I would say like, be more in the present, and to be like enjoying the moment with my players a bit more. I think that's something that I was missing a bit. because I was like looking always the next step, and always prepping. But yeah, okay, I think I will give this one for sure.
It's fantastic advice. Well, GotoOne, thank you for coming on. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing, and I look forward to seeing the rest of your coaching journey as you continue to develop.
Thanks. Thank you very much for your time, your interview, and your work, man.